rise for the RankKing's court.
Good evening, ladies and gentlemen, to the greatest spectacle that browses our internet. Welcome to the RankKing's court. I am your host, as always, the Rank King Austin Moorhead, joined alongside by Oracle Vo. Yeah, Greg, dang, man, where's Greg? That is not Greg. That's not getting Greg. Greg had a little something to come up last minute. No problem. There. Stop it. We're a non-toxic show. Remember that. You stop it. But we have a very, very important guest tonight for this particular topic, which we'll get into in 1 second. But first, let's introduce our guest, Vo, as you would be so obliged. I'll let you introduce him today.
What's going on, guys? Yeah, it's a pleasure to be here. Thank you, Greg, for giving me your spot for the next 200 episodes. I appreciate it.
I'm just checking that's in a...
I've already signed the contract, so he's out the door.
I was going to say, those numbers don't lie. Those numbers don't lie, that contract. It's great. It's a crazy one. It makes NFL contracts look bad. But, Jason, we're happy, very happy that you're here tonight. Normally we talk about what happened about last week, but I think the greater spectacle of what this topic has to offer, I want to get right into it. But first, Vo, the RankKing's court is sometimes located, for me, at an undisclosed location, for Jason, at him, at an undisclosed location. But where is the RankKing's court located for you, good sir? Hey, there we go. So, the topic I wanted to spread it out a lot more. Sadly, we don't have enough weeks left in October in order to do that, considering that we would have started it last week, but our whole 100th episode was amazing. So, for this, guys, your mic's off, though, Chip says.
For some reason it changed.
So no one heard that. Well, there we go. I don't know why the settings change when no one else uses this, but okay.
You mean to say I just did this for no reason?
Oh no, they
know.
got that. The visual's all good.
Yeah.
This usually costs a lot more money. I didn't charge for this either.
Gotta donate bits to see those.
But, boys, it's something that I've held a dear, dear portion of my heart. I've done how many episodes on this show about this topic, but now we're finally going to get into the nitty-gritty because we are getting into horror films, and it's not just it's not just horror films in general. It's not specifics. It's mine. It's my top 100 horror films. There's a lot. I'm excited. Tonight, guys, we're going to do movies 100 to 51. And next week, we'll pick up and do 50 to 1. And you can't tell, judging by his decor, Jason is a bit of a horror mundo, if I do say so myself.
Yeah, I'm one of those guys that started watching horror movies at 3 years old and on my parents' floor, watching the old CRT TVs and the VHSs. And I cover horror through a litany of different ways. I'm a writer for pophorror.com. I have a YouTube channel that's dedicated to a lot of horror reviews. I also write and direct my own horror films and write horror novels. So if I wouldn't be any good at this, I'd be failing my profession right now. So been doing this for a while.
That is quite a resume, my man. That is amazing. I've always wanted to. I don't know if you've ever watched the channel at all, like just not just this channel, but there's one channel in particular that I always watched on YouTube that kind of, I grew up the same way. 5 years old, first horror movie I ever saw was Child's Play, and I was hooked ever since. And there's a YouTube, which I'll give credit to, like Dead Meat, which has a whole bunch of what are known as kill counts that my brother and I have always watched so often. And it's got us into, in fact, he was the one that said, make me your top 100 horror films and send them to me on a Sporkle quiz. And let's see, and he got 86 out of 100.
Nice.
So he's like me. He's into it, and I'm into it too. And I am really excited to get started if you guys have no objections. So
now we're going to go in more.
All right. And let's start off with number 100. It's weird to start kind of in like the ending of a franchise, but it's one that I very much got into a little bit more when I was older. I hated this movie when I was younger, but number 100 for me is Jason Goes to Hell, The Final Friday. Big proponent of Jason Voorhees, love the character, love the Friday the 13th saga, as you can all tell. Younger me, when I was watching, didn't get this movie. I didn't understand it. And maybe that's why I hated it for so long, because you're used to just hockey mask Jason Voorhees running around and killing people. Now this one is, he dies and he's like this sludge that goes into people and takes control of them, and like he needs to be reborn into a new Voorhees, and there's a guy that's breaking fingers. Like it's a goddamn train wreck.
Seems like a lot's going on there.
It is. I mean, Jason, your thoughts on basic Jason movie? Haha, gotcha.
So I will say that I would say this movie is the 100th best in its own franchise. Not really a fan of this movie in itself. I do like that it tried to be more original. I do kind of appreciate the fact that it stands apart, because we have so many of the other, so many of those basic Jason, teens go to camp, teens get drunk, teens have sex, teens get slaughtered kind of movies. So it's kind of nice to see a separation there. I don't like the idea of the killer being disembodied or being regenerated as something else. So I thought the best part of that movie, personally, was the opening sequence where he gets blown to freaking smithereens.
Personally, for me, I think the best part of this movie was definitely the ending, where we see the hockey mask that's in, the ground, so in the dirt, and we see the claws of Freddy Krueger come up and bring the mask down, and that signified, holy shit, we're gonna get a crossover, like, finally.
Which also actually is, I think, a really fun fact about the movie. Kane Hodder obviously played another character in the movie, walking around as like a background guy. Yeah. Also played Jason, obviously, but also was Freddy's glove as well in the ground. When the glove pops up, it's Kane Hodder as well. So Kane was himself, Jason, and Freddy in the same movie.
Wow.
I will. It's not on my list, but there's a movie called Hatchet, and Kane Hodder stars as Victor Crowley in that, and I see the Jason mannerisms sometimes when he walks. You could just tell when he is playing like a iconic horror villain, that the walk, the way he moves his body, like, it's very to a T. I don't want to talk too much because we got a whole bunch more to get through, but that is my number 100, Jason Goes to Hell. Number 99 comes to us from the year 2012. And I'd like to almost picture these as the new generation of ghost stories, because for me, that's what this was. It was short stories that made up of a grander plot all around, and that is 2012's VHS. I like this film a lot. I really didn't know what I was getting into, honestly, when I watched this, because there was no description at the time, when I was picking these out. I was like, oh, what is this a movie about a killer VHS tape? You think, is it rubber? Is it some like that? But no, it is the whole premise of there is two people go in, investigate, and they find all these different tapes, and they have all these different kind of really screwed up situations in horror that they have it, and it all brings back to a certain location. I thought this was very, very, very creative, and almost like it's a way that you talk to yourself. You're a horror writer and horror director. If I wanted to get a thing out like this would be like the movie that I would want it to go to, because in my mind, these are different directors that are kind of putting their own spin on things, trying to put it in.
Yeah, the horror anthology is one of the more underrated subgenres in horror, in my opinion. I think horror anthologies are really, really fun. You really rarely get one that you don't like, because even if you don't like one or two of the stories, you're going to always find something you enjoy in there. Which is why I think this is an underrated entry. I think VHS, the first one's really good. I actually have a signed copy from the one of the demon girls that plays in the first movie.
Ah, nice.
Very, very cool. Yeah, very, very cool. This one is one of those ones that you want to watch with friends. You want to watch in the dark. You want to turn your surround sound up, and you just want to have a good time, because it's the most consistent of the VHS franchise as far as segment to segment wise.
Yeah, if there's one I need to see, it's still VHS 94. I think that is. It's like the newer one. I'm not sure. I have to look into that. But our number 98, one that has a brand new version of it out right now in theaters. It might seem a little low for some people, but I personally did not get into this movie right away. So that's why it's very still low on my list. It's a very, what I believe could be a very Grindhouse Project type of movie, and I freaking loved it. It's gory. It's despicable. Number 98, 2017's Terrifier. This freaking movie, man. It's, Vo, to give you context, the one kill, they're at this pizza shop, and just kind of staring at these two women as a weird ass clown would that doesn't speak. And when they pan away, they bring us to a kill, and he carves out the guy's head, the head of the pizza joint, and kind of uses him as a jack-o'-lantern, he's putting the pizzas in his mouth. It's
Oh my god,
nuts. But the second one, I guess, out now is NC-17, exclusive screenings. It is brutal. Apparently, people are saying it's amazing, but there are also people that are leaving 15 minutes into the film. So Terrifier, I know you're trying to get it, Jason. What are your thoughts on Terrifier? Because I think it's one of the most uniquely brutal horror classics now that I consider almost like a Grindhouse project.
Yeah, this is an unapologetic horror film. This is a horror film for hardcore horror fans. Much like Hatchet, you mentioned earlier, if you get a chance, watch the first two Hatchet films. They're excellent. Adam Green is definitely a horror fan's director. But I also think the same thing with Terrifier. It's one of those things that if you're a horror fan and you're tired of seeing the watered-down, theatrical, kind of passive-aggressive cuts, Terrifier is the kind of film for you. It is Pennywise turned up to 100, and I love how much the new one is getting attention. It's making money. So we're going to see more of these in the future, and I'm super excited about it.
There were 8 reviews, I believe, before it officially came to, and there was 100% on Rotten Tomatoes. I said, this is dope. Please. I need to go see it still. It's amazing. This number right here, 97. This movie is from 2021. I was intrigued because I honestly did not know what we were going to get. And number 97 for me is, let me see if I'm doing this right, Malignant, 2021. Wow, what a trip. James Wan, just a freaking genius with the director. The premise that, I mean, Jason, you go into this because I know this one is it's hard for people to understand it originally, and then you watch it and you're like, dang, that is so creative.
I think I've lost connection with you guys.
Oh no, we hear you.
Yeah, we hear you.
There you go. I think you're good.
Yeah.
I'm not sure if you guys can still hear me. I think I might have lost some connection with you guys.
Yeah, we got you now. We got you now. So
Okay.
you hear me?
Yeah, we're good now. I think.
Oh,
Oh, there he goes.
Oh, back in. Yeah, something
There we
something was
go.
like delaying some audio or something. I apologize. Yeah, so for me, again, James Wan is one of those directors that it's pretty divisive because I'm not really a fan of his style for the most part. I feel like James Wan he kind of settles for the jump scare movie, which there's definitely an audience for that. But I feel like he relies too much on the jump scare and not enough on the characters. I thought the first half of this movie really, really um, kind of kind of laid out exactly what James Wan's style is. It was very paint by numbers. It was very jump scare centric. And then it got to the second half of the movie, or like the last third of the movie, and all of a sudden it was crazy. All of a sudden it was the best parts of what Wan does: the atmosphere, the color grading, just like the background of the characters trying to kind of separate into a societal statement. I thought it was really, really good in the last third. I just wish the rest of the film had kind of told that same story. I feel like it was very paint by numbers, and then all of a sudden at the end, you're like, "Oh, I wish I had more of that. That was great."
yeah, it depends a lot on. I understand your take on that. Number 96. This was one of my favorite all time vampire movies. I dug this movie for so long because I enjoyed the concept. I enjoyed the premise because it was unlike anything I've ever seen, and that is 30 Days of Night. This movie it was weird, man, because once the sun sets in that icy area, it does not come up for 30 Days of Night, and I'm like, well, shit, yeah, that'd be like the best place if I'm a vampire to hide out at. Like, why have they not done this before? So it's very fast paced, kind of like pack mentality, picking off of the kills here. Which if you're into that thing, it's great. I more or less just enjoyed the concept of this. They talk in a dialect the whole time that they have the subtitles for, but it's like it's the first time I've ever seen that happen with like a vampire movie where they don't technically speak in English. So it was interesting to say the least. Your thoughts, Jason?
Yeah, this one for me kind of ushered in a bit of an era of like elevated vampire movies, if that makes any sense. Because we obviously kind of had or like zombie style vampires because we kind of obviously had the George Romero Pittsburgh era in the 60s, and then all of a sudden it was kind of the same zombie stuff over and over again. And then you get into this movie where it's kind of like these zombie vampire demons. You get this really gothic background, and all of a sudden now you're getting elevated kind of vampire demon movies like Let the Right One In and A Girl Walks Home Alone at Night. And now all of a sudden there's this new era of like really intelligent like apocalyptic survival films, which I really enjoy. There's a lot of tension in this one.
But is it better than the Little Vampire movie? Because that might be the best vampire movie of all time.
No, spoiler alert, that is my girl's favorite not horror film. It's my girlfriend's favorite Halloween film to watch.
Yeah.
It's a Little Vampire. So
it was a good one as a kid.
I've never seen The Little Vampire. That's the first one on the list I've not seen.
I think it's a bit more PG for our takes, my friend.
Yeah, a little bit.
We're gonna do this. I am gonna hit 95 through 9. Let's do this. I'm gonna say 95 through 90, Jason, and you tell me how many thumbs up you think and how many thumbs down. You're like, nah, that stinks. All right. So let's go from 95 to 90. Bo, you ready?
Yep.
Okay, number 95. I love this movie. I don't care what anybody says. Behind the Mask: The Rise of Leslie Vernon. All right, so we got a thumbs up for that one. I love that premise of the movie. It's amazing. Number 94, 2010's Tucker and Dale versus Evil. One of the best horror comedies I've seen in a long time. It's spectacular. So we got 2 thumbs up. That's great. Start. We're going old school here. I don't like this film as much as a lot of other people, but I understand why they are crazy about it, and that's 1976's Carrie. All right, so we're getting there. This next one is a found footage film, I believe in the year of 2014. Actually, for the first time, watched on Tubi, and I was like, all right, this is The Taking of Deborah Logan.
Boo.
Boo!
I didn't like this one. I feel like my family had like movie nights and we watched this one, and then like 2 years later went to watch it, and we're like, wait, we've seen this one and it was not good. Like I
I
don't
thought
know.
the ending was crazy. I was like, holy crap! She's like, I don't want to. Spoiler alert. Like swallowing a whole goddamn person. I'm like, oh my god, what? I thought this was a whole different kind of movie. Like,
There's 4 or 5 times in movies like this where they don't do it often very well, but certain movies you can turn the lights out and you can just have jump scares that feel genuine and not cheap, and you're actually kind of waiting to see what the camera's going to do next. And they're using the found footage style as like a positive way to use the camera for scares. And this is one of those movies for me. I really enjoyed this.
awesome. Number 91. I watched this with my girlfriend on Hulu and the other probably a while back. It was so interesting because I've never seen such a take on a horror comedy before. That's 2022's Fresh. Yeah, that's what a lot of people are like putting that into. I this was a weird one. I mean, there was a scene where like he literally like just cut off her ass for trying to escape. Yeah, like it's a strange movie, but I thought it was uniquely deserving of like a middle ground. So, and number 90 for our speed round here. I think if you're gonna go to work and you absolutely hate it, and you're like, what would it be like to kill my coworkers? Go see the Belko Experiment. This was a trip and a half. Was this movie? Yeah, it's I know, but I personally
not a
love
fan of that one.
No, I mean it's a gun directed movie. Like everybody that you've seen in the Marvel films is in this freaking movie. It's essentially just a voice coming on the this establishment that they work at, and they're like, "Hey, just so you know, you have 1 hour. We need 60 of you dead. If you do not kill 60, 120 of you will die." Like it's absolutely insane. Like it was just really fast paced, crazy. Like my girlfriend's watching, she's like, what the why is this happening? And that's just what James Gunn does, man. Go into detail why you don't appreciate it as much as I appreciate it. But.
So the only reason why I said thumbs down on this one is because there's a much better version of this film that already exists. It's called Mayhem. I think it was 2019, maybe. It's Stephen Yeun and Samara Weaving. Oh my God, they tore it down. It was a much funnier, much, I think, faster paced, much more dark version of the Belko Experiment. So while I didn't hate the Belko Experiment, I think Mayhem is a lot better.
Yeah, there's definitely some when talking about these, there's different variations of movies that go along with them. Mayhem was one of them. So let's hit number 89, coming from the year of 2016. A movie is the first time in a while that I had to get up because I couldn't stomach in a while, and it's been so long since that's happened, and very much reason to. You can actually watch this on Netflix now, I believe. This is Raw, 2016's Raw. This is hella gross. This movie makes me like an Eli Roth churning. Basically, though, you have this establishment where this woman is going to school. They have a hazing process where she's a vegetarian and she's forced to eat raw meat. However, she then becomes addicted to eating said raw meat and tries to literally just eat people. And it's like a weird, like, gross, like, I mean, chime in, Jason. I mean, I think
it's like a Hannibal Lecter.
I mean, very much so. It's just, yeah, that's why we don't haze people. Don't haze. Shit like this happens.
They might eat you if you haze them.
Exactly.
Yeah, this was really, really pretty gory and pretty unapologetic in its kind of candor. I love the color grading in this film. I think the acting is solid. The one thing that throws me off, and I'll be canceled for this, is my hatred for subtitles. I'm very much I love to read when I'm reading. I love to watch when I'm watching. I don't love to cross-pollinate if I can help it. There are a few exceptions, but it's one of those things when there's subtitles or there's very thick dialects, I find myself getting taken out of the experience. So that kind of hurt for me to an extent, but it is a very good, well-told film.
Totally understand. Number 88 is a big surprise to me because, again, I really didn't. It was kind of like thrown into theaters and like with all these other releases coming out, and people just kind of forgot about it. I think it's so interesting, and that is 2020's Underwater. Big like monster movie, like I shouldn't say monster, but yeah, kind of like monster movie. I'm gonna get canceled for not remember this. Kristen Dunst, saying that right? Twilight girl.
No,
Chris.
Kristen Stewart.
Kristen Stewart. Thank you.
Same
See?
first name.
Doesn't matter. Very uniquely spun to, because I had not seen her in a film since I painfully had to watch Twilight. So this was an interesting experience, being that it's a big like underwater facility and everything's crashing down, and you have that claustrophobia of like, if you're outside, you're dead, without any things. So it's very, I mean, and then you have the whole twist at the end, which I can't go into. I mean, I think it's a really good, like, solid middle of the road, like, horror film.
Yeah, definitely middle of the road. For me, it's the beginning. I think is solid. The premise is good. The ending is really good. I think the in between kind of gets a little slow paced for me. I think trying to connect your middle and keep your story fresh is hard for some filmmakers, and I think this kind of lost me in the middle to an extent. But I would say middle of the road, five or 6 out of 10.
Awesome, we got a comment in there.
All right, what do we got? We have trash pick from Grind Project. Okay. All right, well, you know what?
From the Rap King.
From the Rap
He
King,
won the crown on the vote too.
Yeah,
Just saying.
So stupid. I guess they just put anyone in there now. Oh wait. So number 87. I did not know what I was going to expect from this film. I thought this film was going to be total trash, and it turned out to be very, very well paced and very well done. And that's 2019's Crawl. Anytime that I see like, oh, it's a woman fighting for survival again. We've seen how many crocodile and alligator horror movies, like Placid, Primeval. Like, you just really don't know what you're going to expect. I was very surprised by Crawl. Very surprised. The hurricane comes down. She's trying to get her dad out of this flooding house. But, oh no, there's freaking gators there. And there's a bunch. And they're fucking giant and deadly. And the pacing is well done. The freaking jump scares are right where they need to be. It's not overdone. I mean, to me, one of the better creature features that I've seen in quite some time.
Yeah, I think for me, the only thing that kind of overshadowed this was I think we saw a couple of better ones around the same time period. 12 Feet Deep was one that I liked a lot, where they're in the pool. That's a really underrated one. There's also that 47 Meters Down, which was okay. These kind of wear thin for me for the most part, but I did like the cinematography in particular on this one. Everything looked clean and crisp, and the moments when the camera had to get chaotic, it was nice and shaky. So I enjoyed the way this was shot.
Definitely. Now we move on to number 86. I'll let you take this one, Jason, because I think you're going to say something about this that I'm going to like. Pretty sure, I do definitely believe this was an A24 film. One of my favorite all-time companies.
We did a whole episode on them.
Did a whole episode on them. Our disgruntled ex-employee will tell you that I enjoy it. It's my favorite. When people say A24, they think of me. So this is 2015's The Green Room.
Jason has left the chat. So I will say this. I am definitely, I know that this is going to be a whole nother offshoot podcast. I'll come back next week and you and I will debate this to the team. I think A24, and I'll keep this short because I know we're on a big, we got a big podcast today, but A24 to me is cinematography wise and tension wise and atmospherically, it is the best company in the world right now, bar none. But as far as its characters and its story, which is kind of my home base for what I deem to be a good film, being a writer, I think they tend to lose a lot of character and they lose a lot of progression to sacrifice for the beautiful visuals that they do. Green Room is kind of an example of that, where I like the location. I love the way the music is used in this. The score is great. I love the way it's shot, and the coloring and stuff is excellent. But I think they don't spend enough time, considering we're with the characters for so long, they don't spend enough time on the things that make the characters tick, which kind of bothered me. So I didn't love this one as much as you. But I also don't like A24, except for the stuff they've done this year.
Totally understandable. It's punk Nazis. I was like, let's freaking go. And Kirk, what are they? I'm like, let's bring it to the table. I appreciate it, but I do understand where some people kind of have that feeling of maybe it's overrated, maybe it's just like too much. Like, Well, we are going to talk a lot about some A24 films on this list because I appreciate that living hell out of it. Same thing for this one. Let's go to 85 to 80 and see where we go for there for time. But I think we're making some pretty good space. So let's do same thing. Thumbs up or thumbs down if it is good. Thumbs up if it's a piece of shit. Put that thumb down.
Wait, before you move on, Grind Project said, A24 is amazing. I like this guest you have tonight. He should take over the show.
He'll do anything just to get me kicked off and to have someone else.
Really will, yeah.
You guys got really smart guys in the chat. I appreciate that. You're a man of good faith.
Hey, I appreciate your knowledge, man. If I didn't appreciate it, you wouldn't be here. So we all get it. Let's do it. 2018, number 85, 2018's Overlord. Yeah, I know. It's the modern day Call of Duty zombie map, but in a movie. Another A24 film. This one traumatized my girlfriend. I'm sorry that I ever took her to see this. You're right when you talk about the cinematography for this one, because this is all what I love about this movie is the cinematography. The characters were a little but it is 2022's Men.
It's the first one on this list I've not seen yet.
Oh.
Ooh. It's just brace yourself. That's all I'm saying. But I appreciate it for what it was. My girlfriend was not trying to throw up in the middle of the theater. So that is 84. Now we get to 83.
Bye, Foreigner. Thanks for tuning in.
Later, buddy. Appreciate you. Number 83. The first one I've ever seen. 1988's Child's Play. Yep, it's a classic. Gotta put it on there.
At 83, though.
Yes,
I thought it would be higher for you.
It would. You try to do this. It's hard to like put some.
I was trying to think today. Like, one, I don't even know if I know 100 horror films.
It's bad that I've probably seen like 4 times the amount of this list. Like, it's Jason I can relate. Like, Halloween is kind of like where everyone watches horror films. I'm assuming that we watch horror films 24/7 around the year. So I mean, it's
I was gonna ask, like, do you watch one a day or?
I can probably get like 1 or 2 a day in, honestly, because I love it so much. All right, we go to 82. We are moving back 1 year. Another classic, 1987's Hellraiser, which I have not seen the new one yet on Hulu. I don't know what to expect of it. I've heard very mixed reactions.
He looks creepy.
It's creepy?
He looks creepy.
Yes, he does. Number 81, I just watched this today again, just because it is such a underrated pick in my honest opinion. Coming from the year of 2002, Dog Soldiers. I absolutely love this film. Alfred from Gotham's in this. Like, it's freaking dope of just...
Is that a giant dog?
It is a werewolf.
Okay.
But it's a foreign film. I love it, and it's just amazing. And finally, we get to our... We'll talk about this one a little bit because I have special ties to this one. Number 80, we have Friday the 13th, Part 7. I was very interested when the new blood came. I didn't know what to expect. I said, they've kind of done this dance with Jason how many times? Where is it going to go from here? Oh, let's throw a girl in there that has psychic powers. Psychic powers, and she accidentally like wakes Jason up from being dead, and now he's stalking her. And the ending of this is just a great amount of cinema. That it's just back and forth, psychic powers versus undead mentality of a machete. It's just amazing.
I don't think I've seen this one.
You have to let me know if you haven't seen them or not. I have like an 8-film collection on DVD though.
Mm-hmm.
I will send it to you if I need to put it that way.
Yeah, I wouldn't be opposed to that. I think we lost Jason for a second there. but
Yeah, he's
I think
coming
I
back.
think he's
So
back
have you
now.
guys? We still here?
Yeah, we're
Yes,
still here.
yes.
Oh. He's frozen again, I think.
Coming back.
Can you hear us, Jason? He'll be back in any second. There we go.
There we go.
So sorry about that. I have no idea why that happens every 10 picks or so.
You're good.
I don't know where you guys left off at, but I gotta say I specialize as well to the New Blood. I love this movie. It was the first ever VHS my mom had of the Jason series, so it was the first one that I ever saw. Man, what a fun movie! What a nice, unique way to separate the Jason films and make this one different by putting him against somebody who's his equal, who's also tortured, who kind of relates to him in some way, and then is like an equal foil. She's the first person in the series, I guess, after Tommy Jarvis, to kind of be Jason's equal, and that's a very nice change of pace.
Yeah, we really don't see that a lot. For those that don't watch horror films will know that there are basically only two people that can set, three if you count a later sequel, but I'm not gonna get into that yet. Tommy Jarvis, aside from him, this is the only other character that has ever been able to stand up to Jason. And psychic powers and all, it's very fun watch. When she uses her mind to crack the mask over like a rotting face of Jason, I was just like, oh. That's what he looks like now. Like, his face changes. Granted, Tom Savini, the dude's a freaking masterpiece with makeup. It's just unreal. Number 79. Now we're going from a classic to one of the, I would have to say, one of my most surprising films I've seen. It is a Shudder original, I believe, which, Jason, if you love horror, you have to have Shudder. So it's a streaming service for horror buffs. Everything is on there, from classics to new. For me, this is The Boy Behind the Door. I very much appreciated this, Jason. If you want to go into explain, you're all the more welcome to do so.
Yeah, this is one of those movies that it really kind of elongates tension. I mean, it's a two-character movie for the most part. You get two characters, and this is one of those movies, like I discussed earlier, how they didn't use the two characters kind of like with the green room to accentuate them. In this case, you had two characters that you kind of were fleshed out pretty well, and the relationship they had with each other really kind of made you empathize with them. So when stuff happened, you felt bad for them, and because they're so young, you feel extra bad because they have less resources to escape the evil things that are happening. So I really enjoyed this, and Shudder's awesome.
Yeah, so if you have Shudder, please get on and watch that, because the whole premise of it was just like, excuse me, it's just something that it happens kind of all the time, but we kind of like just either don't pay attention to it as much or we brush it under the rug, which is terrible for us as a society, but I digress. One thing that's also bad for our society is if this guy ever escaped into the world at number 78. This is the sequel to this movie. The other one's going to be coming up soon. But this is 2017's Creep 2. Yeah, I was very shocked when I originally watched the dual films of Creep and Creep 2, because I had only known him from one other role, and that was his role as Pete in The League.
And that is Pete. I didn't even realize that.
Yeah, so you can imagine that when I see this, I'm like, there's no way. Like, he is one creepy son of a bitch in these films, man. And for this one, like, it piggybacks off the first one, but you have another character that comes into play. You have a woman that's kind of like brushing up on this new website that she's trying to develop of the weird and the eccentric and everything. So she finds him, and that's all I can describe as this film after is weird, eccentric, fun, and downright creepy.
Suits the title.
Yeah, I'm really, really hit or miss when it comes to found footage. We've seen such an oversaturation of the genre with found footage. But when I found these movies, I fell in love instantly. Mark Duplass is so freaking good in this. He is just the centerpiece of this creepy de-evolution into just psychosis and psychotic behavior. And I feel like You know the entire time what's going to happen, but you're taken on such a journey that you don't care that it's going into an obvious direction. And that's Mark Duplass's genius in this. Both of these are awesome.
Yeah, I would say like we'll get into the other one, but the twist that this one took at the end, I was like, oh, I thought we were going in a different direction. No, we're going right back. I was like, ah, shit. Let's hit number 77. This is actually on my brother's list for one of his films. He's a puzzle solver. He loves all the weird games and huge fan of Survivor and The Challenge and Big Brother and all that. I would never let him if he came up with something like this, which he would because he's crazy and he's has too much time on his hands and he's a horror buff and he loves competition. 1997's Cube. This is a weird interpretation of the escape from a prison facility kind of movie, but there's traps everywhere. The first scene in this movie, I will never forget. Essentially, you have a person that's crawling through crawling through a hole, and they're sprayed what appears to be water. And I was like, okay, well, that makes sense. You know, they want him to continue. They want him to drink the water. Well, it turns out that this wasn't water. It's more or less some sort of an acid. And he just kind of dissolves very slowly just right in front of us as viewers. Because he's like wiping and sooner or later, like, it's not just water coming off, it's skin coming off, it's muscle. I'm like, oh my God.
Was it like a painful, like, was he?
Oh yeah.
Okay, he wasn't just like, okay, this is happening. Like, he's screaming,
he was very much suffering. Like,
yeah.
It was bad. And that's kind of how, like, this movie plays out. It's weird because when people think of the trap horror films, they always think of Saw. But for me, like, this was always an underrated classic that always just got swept under the rugs when it came to, like, movies like Saw. This was puzzle. This was strategy. This was, like, figuring out. This even had mathematics in it at one point. And I almost turned it off. I said, screw math. But you needed math to stay alive. So that's what, kids, if you want to learn, you always say in your math classes, what are we going to use for this in the real world? Just like this.
Yeah, this is an absolute classic. This is why I love these lists, because you'll get publicity for films that don't always get enough publicity. This film is excellent. And this Cube series is a very good testament to why it's important to use practical effects over CGI. I'm not going to get into my soapbox here as a filmmaker, but Cube 1 uses practical effects, and Cube 2 and 3, which are not very good films, use CGI. And I feel like that there's a big difference. You can tell kind of how much more painful and how much more intricate the effects are. And that really makes you suffer along with the characters. This is a really good film.
Yeah, I was, spoiler alert, I hated the second Cube. I thought it was trash. I said, why? Which is like, why, when you have such a classic and then it's almost like you try to do too much in the next film and it loses everything. It's just awful, but that happens to some. It needs to happen for this next one. And by that, I mean it needs a sequel. It's probably not going to get one, but I wrote a blog about this movie. I loved it when the premise came out. Number 76 is 2019's Brightburn. I love this freaking movie. And I know a lot of people, when they saw it, they were like, oh, this is okay. I mean, like, what it's weird that it just, Vo, if you didn't know, this is the Superman story, but if Superman turned out to be a psychotic piece of shit and not the savior of the world. So basically his like shuttle is like calling out to him and telling him to act in a way like to take over the world, take the world. And sooner or later he knows he has abilities and then he uses them to his own. I mean, granted, this kid, I think in the film is supposed to be about 10, 12 years old, somewhere around that. So he has childlike tendencies, but with the strength of a god and no intense, like all intensity, very much like not understanding because he's never experienced pain before. So he has no idea what blood or any of it feels like, but he enjoys watching it. And it's so grotesque in a way. And again, the ending, it calls for another movie. It calls for Brightburn 2. Get on that shit, Guns Brothers.
Yeah, this was supposed to be a franchise, I believe, but it did not do well in the box office. Not my fault. I saw it twice in theaters.
right.
But
So you did your part.
yes, it was an excellent movie. I thought it was definitely. We need more superhero origin evil stories. I like stuff like this. James Gunn did a great job on this. There's one particular scene where, not to spoil anything, but glass falls into an appendage of somebody, and you get kind of this red LUT over the screen. They use a LUT, like a filter LUT, and oh my god, it's so tense. And this child's so unassuming, but there's certain moments that he gets so aggressive, and you just know he's going to explode, and you're waiting for the explosion, and it pays off. So yes, Brightburn 2, please.
Please, yes. And the one thing that I will never forget about this film is I believe, like, I think that I know the Gunn brothers directed it, but I'm trying to remember what James had an influence on this film whatsoever, because before this happened, he had just gotten fired for those issues from the one movie. And when this came out, I said, this is the middle finger to Disney. I said, this is it. Like, this is gonna generate so much. And like you said, it didn't do well in the box office. And I was like, God damn it. I was like, but to me, it's such a good film. I love it. So
we have a couple comments on this one if you want to read those.
All right, what we got? Can't wait. So yes, still haven't used algebra. Well, I'm glad, Chip. If that happens, all the power to you. Bring a ruler. Remember, a squared plus b squared equals c squared. Just remember that. And then only Russ Pilov, which is my brother. He is coming on for the next the 50-1. And Jason, you are more than welcome to join us too, because I know he would love your input if you got nothing to do next week. So we'd love to have both of you on. I'm extending the offer to you now. If you'd like to accept or deny or whatever, you'd like, this guy sucks. He has no idea what he's talking about. I don't want to be on here next week.
It's possible. It's possible. Has happened before.
I don't blame him.
As long as I get 5 times the pay, it's okay. Just raise the money up a little bit. You know?
But we'll talk about and see, because if I can have you both on, because I know that he is just like me, where he loves like watching all like the dead meats and all the kill counts and all of like the blood and gore and everything and how they do it. He loves an interesting kill, to say the least. So I believe he's trying to redo his camera again, which is totally fine. We understand how iPhones or Androids or whatever y'all have, you could be on a what are them things where you read
tablet?
the books? Kindles?
Kindle.
Like, yeah, Kindle. But it happens. So we have going into now 75-51. So which I think we made pretty good time, bro.
Yeah, it was pretty good timing. I wasn't sure how it would go, but you figured it out. We mastered it.
I would think so.
We still got good timing here, so you can take a little more time on these ones.
Oh yeah.
And Jason's back now, I think.
You guys are going to rescind the offer to come on next week because my Wi-Fi sucks.
Believe
you
me,
can come to the studio with us, with me.
I was gonna say, the studio's always open, but I've had multiple opportunities where like my computer, like yours, has just. I mean, I've had this one for 8 years. I'm surprised that still works. But yeah, I've used my phone, and believe me, I'm always on it, going from like my info, my data, and then it like freezes up, and I'm like, everyone's like, "What are you doing?" I'm like, "I'm sorry, I need my shit." But
I'm sitting right next to the router, so I have no idea why. I guess when the Wi-Fi gets janky, it just kind of turns itself off. So I apologize in advance.
no,
it's
you're all
good. You
man.
keep freezing. People can take pictures of you, do whatever they want.
Hey, once again, you better pay for those on my OnlyFans.
Let's hit number 75. Another classic. I watched this one. I watched the new one. I like them both in their own variations. I just wasn't as big of a fan as most people are of the, and I completely understand that. But this is 1992's Candyman. I mean, Jason, put your thoughts into it. I love the premise. I forget, blanking on the name, but he is an incredible actor in this film.
Tony Todd is a wonderful
Thank
actor.
you. Yes.
yeah, this I enjoyed this one, and I also enjoy the new one as well. They're very different styles of films. I think that it's one of those things that it was very much in the time period. We get a lot of like, you get your serial killer based on racial segregation and just like impoverished areas and stuff like that. So you get a nice fresh take on the serial killer. And Tony Todd not only has captivating eyes, so to speak, but also just like the melodic tones of his verbal abilities, because you get kind of like this Freddy Krueger-esque kind of character, but instead of being like slapsticky, he's very kind of serious and dulcet, and he just kind of brings a lot to the character. So it's a very entrancing kind of character, and I wish that 2 and 3 of the original were better, because 2 and 3 just weren't as good. But the new one I think is pretty solid as well.
Yeah, I saw the
Yeah.
new one. It was pretty good. We watched
Which
it
a
recently.
lot of people were like wondering what the new one was going to be like, because it had that essence of Jordan Peele was going to be like putting some sort of portion into it. My brother points in the OG is a banger. All sequels and new one, however, are kind of mid, is what he put it as. Also has, I'm trying to remember what he says. TT has appeared as one of in a bunch of recent horror movies. So the actor. So that's what he was trying to get at.
He's also in the Hatchet movies as well. He works with
Yes.
with Adam Green.
Yes. Get off my sidewalk. Go watch that film. Like you're gonna love it. Maybe not, but I loved it. So, number 75, Candyman. Now we move on to number 74. One of my favorite. We talk about, is found footage horror dead? Is it work? Does it work? For me, this one definitely put it on the map. Not the freaking stupid American version that was just awful. This is 2007's Wreck. I loved this film. It's an outbreak zombie film of quarantine and just overall terrifying viruses that just plague this apartment building. And it follows this newscaster around that they're like following the fire department, and they go and check in on a couple calls in this building, and all hell breaks loose inside. So, Wreck, your thoughts, Jason?
Yeah, this one left me a wreck because the subtitles. The subtitles.
That's right, subtitle guy. So I forget.
It's one of those that they do use the camera very successfully to create jump scares. I like whenever these kind of found footage films can use the camera effectively to hide shadows and create new things and kind of make you look around the corners. That was started by John Carpenter in '78 with Halloween, and I think found footage does this well. So I give it credit for its visual appeal, even though the subtitles had me wrecked.
And I gotta find all my foreign ones are gonna be bad for you then. Like that's dang. But it's all right. Listen. I was a total for that for a long time, that I didn't watch foreign horror films because of the subtitles. So I've recently put myself, because like people talk about how good they are. I'm like, well, now I gotta watch them and I gotta sit through them. I'm happy I made the switch, but I understand if you don't. I completely get that. Just like I completely get why this is my number 73. This is the sequel to the classic franchise. In my opinion, this one left me a little to be desired, but I understand why, because it built so much after that. So this is, for me, this is Friday the 13th Part 2.
Yeah, this was obviously the introduction of Jason. It was never supposed to be a thing. They were going to do a one-off film, and it made money, so it came back for the last 40 years. And aren't we glad it did? Because I feel like Jason, in pretty much all iterations, just to have that character be this kind of mindless zombie killer has given us so many classic kills and good moments. And I want to give Amy Steele some credit here, because Amy Steele was one of the most underrated final girls of all time. Her empathy with the Jason character and understanding kind of what his torture was, and kind of the pitchfork showdown with the mother sledder at the end. Absolute classic moments.
So, want to put out some comments here. My brother says, "LOL Hatchet," and he also said, "Rec 3's body count is like 150 plus." LOL. So I'll have to check that out. But yes, he would agree with us that she is one of probably the most underrated final girls of all time. For Vo, if you do not know, Final Girl is basically how it sounds. It's a final girl of the horror film that's faced off against the killer.
That's what I figured.
Well, you know what? You go outside a lot, so you don't understand movies and stuff.
Yeah, the running joke is I played outside as a kid. so most of the topics I had no idea about.
It's not a running joke. He just runs outside, but but my brother now says Jenny with a heart. So her degree in psychology leads her to get inside the head of Jason and mind the shit out of him to where, we find like, oh, it's his mother's head on the thing. Oh my God. And puts on the sweater and acts like it's very good. I just think there's other iterations of the franchise that are better, but being that's why I said it is still number 73 on my list. So it beats all the other ones that came before this. So now we move on to number 72. One of my most intriguing movies that I had seen, because this is when Netflix was kind of like putting out their original horror movies. And I was like, what are we going to get? What are we going to get from this? I thought this one was amazing. And that's 2018's The Ritual. I know a lot of people are going to be like, how do you feel about it? The Norse mythology that goes into this, all the craziness of sacrifice and the people that worship this being, so to speak, because we don't see it. It takes a very Jaws approach of things and doesn't show you what it is until the end. And my God, this was incredible. Your thoughts? What do you got?
Yeah, so basically my note was going to be what you said at the end there, was that they protected the antagonist. I think a lot of these movies are made or broken by how much you see of the antagonist, especially whenever there's going to be either heavy makeup or heavy CGI. You have to protect your antagonist to make the audience afraid, and this movie did that very, very well.
I would say so. We move on to number 71. It was the only movie that I remember seeing in theaters where I almost punched my date because of how I got scared of it. Not like, I'm telling you, I like, whoo, like right there, like freaked out. And that is Insidious Chapter 2. There is a specific jump scare in this film that completely caught everybody off guard, including myself, which I jump to a good jump scare every now and then. But I've kind of trained my brain to like realizing, oh, it's coming. It's coming.
You pick up on it sometimes. You're like, oh, yeah, this is going to happen here.
This one was out of left field. Like if I had to say like this one, like Haunting a Hill House, like some of those like just moments where like that happens. And I'm not going to lie. I freaked out. I went like that and like literally almost like grazed across her nose. And I was like, oh my God, I'm so sorry. Like I don't do that at all. Like at all. This definitely does not hold a candle, in my opinion, to the original, but it certainly is a lot better than 3 or The Last Key, like any of the other Insidious movies that come before it. 2 piggybacked off 1 and still delivered good things for me.
So you almost punched your date. I wanted to punch James Wan for making this movie.
Oh.
This is sorry, Twitch, for getting us demonetized. I feel like this, to me, again, like nothing against James Wan. I feel like he starts building good universes. I like the first Insidious. I like the first Conjuring. I like a lot of the films he doesn't like that he made back in the day, like Dead Silence. He does some really good stuff. But I think these movies get very, very formulaic and very lazy. And I know there's an audience for it. I know jump scares are fun. I know it's good to see in theaters. I appreciate what he's trying to do. But I feel like these movies just get so caught up in how are we going to build these jump scares, which this one did work. I know exactly which one you mean. It worked very well. But I think these get very lazy in terms of let's make the characters different. Let's kind of give them a new journey. Let's kind of saddle up with the characters first, because if you don't know who the characters are, you don't care about where they're going, you're not going to care when the ghosts eventually take them over, which is what happens to me in this film. So I'm not a big fan of any of the Wan universe after the first Conjuring and first Insidious. Sorry, James. I won't punch you.
And we have a comment here from Only Rice Pilaf, says first Conjuring is the worst of the 3.
That's right. Ian does take a bit of a directional pull, which I personally think the second Conjuring, I think, is a little bit worse of all 3. I appreciate the first one, and I honestly really love the third one. I thought that it blew past the second one, in my honest opinion. But you are going to have, I'm assuming we can have a whole other episode on how Halloween ends and how people view that, because everyone says it's such a divisive movie. I think a lot more are on one side than the other, but there's still an audience for all of these that I understand. We'll hit 70 to 65. Actually, we'll do 70 to 66 because I really want to talk about 65 because I know a lot of especially my brother's gonna be like, why? Why is it on this list? Even though myself and a lot of other people very much appreciated and what it did. So, same thing, up, down, good, shit. Starting from number 70, we have the original Hostel. Yeah, another Eli Roth like Ripper. This whole the torture scenes just kind of like threw me through. They're not as terrifying as like the other ones that come later, and they're more. It gets into that whole like torture-esque era of like Saw and Hostel that it's you really don't want a place to go to if that's in your mind. Like you get trapped in there and it's weird. This is one that I'm curious if you've seen, Jason, because a lot of people haven't. It was on Hulu for a while. It is 2019's I Trapped the Devil. So admit, yeah, that's kind of what I enjoyed the premise. I was like, this is such a weird, unique take, like on such a very simple thing. But I've been trying to find it anywhere now. It's not on Hulu anymore. You have to actually rent it or buy it, which is weird. If it's such a mid film, should be a buy or something. If it's like, come on, people. Number 68. My brother's gonna kill me for having this so low because he loves this version, and that is the 2009 Friday the 13th at number 68. Yeah, I enjoy it a lot. I just couldn't put it any higher, obviously. Number 67, we have 2007's Trick or Treat. A very Halloween like classic. Now I'm assuming you're doing that because it's too low. Is it too low for you, or is it you're like, why is it even on this list?
Trick or Treat is in my top 10 of all time.
Wow.
Ooh, so look at that. So
Wow.
maybe I need to research a little bit more into it. I very much loved it. There's just other ones that I grew up with that I enjoyed better, but I will have to have a conversation with that because I enjoy that is in your top 10, and I at least have it on the list. So
It's just a little further back than 10.
Yeah,
Or 5.
Number 66, 2009's Zombieland. I love the concept. I love the comedy. I will never eat a snowball again. I will always eat a Twinkie because of this film. And number 65 is where I want to actually dive in and talk about this because I saw this film with my brother in theaters. It's supposed to be one of the best horror films of all time. I've seen it once. So it's amazing that it even made it up on this list this high because I enjoyed it so much. I enjoyed the direction it took. My brother thought it was one of the worst horror films I think he's ever seen. 2022's Barbarian.
I am very surprised that it is as high on your list as it is. I just saw it in theaters about a week or so ago, and really enjoyed it. I don't know that I'd put it on a top anything list. It is currently, as far as this year goes, I think it's like number 9 on my top 10 for this year so far. So surprised that it made it as high as it did, but I did really enjoy it. I didn't know what to expect going in. The trailer kind of left me like, do I even want to see this in theaters? Really, really enjoyed kind of what came out of it, and I kind of hope that we get a little more because they didn't really flesh out the entirety of kind of what the origin story is. So this could be a prequel or a sequel, I think.
Yeah, you definitely have a lot of directions where this can go. I mean, granted, we saw a double feature that day. We saw The Invitation, which we won't speak of again after this.
That was terrible.
Thank you.
I have seen that one.
At least you know
that one is bad.
At least you know it's bad.
That's at the red lights.
I'm going to disagree on this one too. I think The Invitation was decent. Was
that the one with the red lights in the hills and everything? Like at the end of it?
Yes. Yeah.
Okay.
Nothing happened.
Wait, no. The Invitation you're talking about is the one on Netflix right now. That was a 2019, I believe.
Yeah, that's a different one. It's like the party guest.
That one's terrible.
Yeah, no, this is a different.
That one's bad. Don't waste your time on the other one.
Yeah, well, I've seen that other one.
Nothing happened until 20 minutes left in the movie.
Yeah, so Ian has his next comment, boo, and then a swear word which I can't say, and then he literally says, this is a comment that I might not say, but whatever. He said they literally tried to get us to root for a rapist. So, well, we don't know because I can't go too much into the film, but it takes a drastic direction, which I shouldn't say drastic. It's unexpected direction that left me speechless and left the entire theater speechless. And I think he's a little more disappointed because he thought that when the story picked up after that it was going to go, that he thought it was going to be more than just what it was. So, which I know a lot of horror fans, but when you do that, like in a horror film, that you put us in a box in this trailer and don't show us anything else, and then this is the movie you get, man, it's such fun. It's such fun to watch it. So, yes, Barbarian for me at number 65. Let us hit number 64. Says my thing chimed out. Now we're back. Thank you. Another foreign film. They recently made an American version of this, and it was freaking terrible. So stick with the foreign version, people, because this is 2014's Good Night Mommy. Very, very much appreciated this film. It is a story of two boys. Their mother comes home after having surgery, plastic surgery done to her face, but they aren't quite sure if it's their mom. They have this notion that it's this different person that's hiding behind these bandages, and the movie takes a whole different crazy turn at the end. Crazy. I was like, wow, this is insane. It builds tension. It builds churning of the stomach. It is amazing. Again, another foreign film. I 100% want you people to watch these because some of them are just amazing. And don't say anything about the subtitles. But if you take that out, let me just say, take the subtitles out of the equation. Is it a good movie, Jason?
So when I saw the trailer, I was very intrigued. I saw the subtitles. I went and got a sandwich, and then I decided to skip it. But then I came back and watched the one that excuse me, just came out, the American version, which I hated. I thought the American version was terrible. So I have not gone back and watched the subtitle one again because subtitles. It's I'm that guy now. But the trailer did look intriguing. The story beats that I saw in the American version would have been good if the script was well done, but I thought the script and the dialogue was very kind of hokey and not my thing. So probably good, but subtitles, so no. Zero stars.
They're very the new one. I just don't watch that, people. I tell you all the time of movies to watch. Don't watch that one. Number 63 has a special place in my heart because it came out during my birth year, and it is one of the most unique takes on a franchise that I've ever seen. I had this on DVD. I'm pretty sure that Ian and I both know that we wore this down to the DVD to the point where I don't even know if it runs properly anymore. And that number 63 is 1994's Wes Craven's New Nightmare. Again, this ties to the Nightmare on Elm Street franchise, but this takes place in the actual real, it's going to sound so weird when I say it, but it takes place in the real world. Like where the people are not characters, they are actors. Like they're the actual actors, and Wes Craven's in there as the director, and he's like, oh, I've been having visions of Freddy and everything. And we get a much sinister, much more darker, and I think much more cooler designed Freddy Krueger in this movie. And you even have like the old version that Robert Englund like comes back and like she's like they're on a talk show. He like pops like we'll do lunch. And you see this now more darker demonic version. The green hat, the glove is literally like his hand essentially now. It's not even a glove anymore. It's his hand, and he's like walking across the sides of the wall in a scene, asking a kid if he's ever played Skin the Cat while he's like peeling away skin off a girl. It's nuts. Very much appreciated this film. Jason, I know when you come to originality and everything, how do you feel about this movie? Because I personally love the hell out of it.
Yeah, well, Wes Craven is the reason why I'm a director. He's one of the guys that I grew up on. He's my absolute idol. If I had to pick one brain that kind of caused my brain to do what it did as a creator, it's Wes Craven. He's absolute genius. He was not only to spawn the kind of a fresh take on the slasher genre with Freddy Krueger in the 80s, but also did a fresh take on meta in the 90s. People will look at Scream as kind of being the meta kind of kingpin, but I will say that this is the reason why Scream exists. I think this movie is very much a precursor to what Scream was and what this subgenre became. I think it's so intelligent. I think it's so smart to be able to say, we know that our horror icons have become less scary. They've become caricatures. We're going to show you why they're caricatures and now make them more scary again in our own way. So I think this is brilliantly done. I love the story beats, and I love what the genre turned into in the 90s.
It's very true. I mean, you could argue that we not only think that, Scream wouldn't exist because a lot of movies wouldn't exist without the brilliant mind of Wes Craven. So now we talk into number 62, and I love this scene. I love this movie. I love where the direction took because the last one, no. Another Friday the 13th film was my favorite for a long, long time, and it's now become, I think, second. I think that's right, second. So this is Friday the 13th, Part 6, Jason Lives. Spoiler alert, for the first 4 films, Jason is very much just a normal human being, like walking around. Whereas 6 comes into the play and he's dead. He's in the ground, and Tommy Jarvis is old, and he's like, I gotta go back to the grave because he has a PTSD thing with Jason, that he's like an ex with a bad itch. He just can't get away from her. So he goes and like puts like a cemetery poker like through him, and he's like, yeah, he's finally dead. Well, wouldn't you freaking know it? Because lightning strikes that pole and it brings them back to life. And it's so fun where they take the turns in this movie, because in the normal Friday the 13th, you just had Jason, he'd get hit, he had a baseball bat or maybe an axe to the leg and he's limping. He's a killing machine in this one. He doesn't feel pain. There's a scene where these army people are like doing like a paintball retreat, and this one guy is just the scene with what I have. He's like cutting down like things trying to get away, and Jason literally takes him by the arm and just flings his body, and he just looks down, and he's just holding the arm with the machete in his hand. A guy sees it, like pulls out his paintball pistol and shoots him, and he hits him like right in the chest. Ayla just like looks up and then just like comes right after him. It's definitely a film that knows this is gonna be a weird turn, but man, did it revitalize this franchise, because we didn't really know what we were gonna get after that 5th film. So, but Part 6, yeah, I very much appreciate it.
Yeah, I think Part 6 it's kind of 1A and 1B, with Part 4 for the best in the franchise for me. Yep. Tom McLaughlin's an absolute genius. He found a way to infuse a lot of comedy into this one. This is the slickest and funniest Jason without making fun of the killer himself. Yeah. Just very self-aware. And you mentioned about that crazy army kill. That was only added at the last minute. They went back and shot that after the fact because they only had 10 kills and they wanted 13. So they actually
That's
added
amazing.
Oh, wow.
They actually wanted to pad the runtime with extra kills, so they added that at the last minute. And also, Tom McLaughlin has been writing a sequel to this movie, where the caretaker, the graveyard caretaker, is Jason's father, Elias Voorhees, and I hope we get to see it someday.
Wow, man! See, this is why I like having guests like you that have all this information.
I told you, he's a pro. He knows what he's talking about.
This is why if he comes next week, my brother and everything, we're gonna have a hell of a show.
Might be a 3-hour episode.
Good Lord. Pack your bags. You're sleeping over tonight in the studio, Bo. 61 is interesting. I saw it on Netflix, and I thought, what is this movie? I was watching it one day when I was bored. This is 2018's What Keeps You Alive. A very, almost oh, you got me, horror film. Turns out, this couple is, vacationing, so to speak. Mm-hmm. And, something doesn't seem like it is. That's all I'll say. And it turns into a very cat and mouse, no pun intended, cat and mouse.
That's why you grabbed the cat.
Of this movie. And, I mean, my brother watched it. He enjoyed this one too. Jason, what are your thoughts on it?
My first thought is to pay the cat more money, because the cat was on cue perfectly there. The cat knew its cue right away. That was great.
It really was.
As far as the movie, I really enjoyed it. Not quite as much as your cat, but I really enjoyed the movie. I thought it was one of those things where, again, you've got two characters in a secluded location, and this really kind of shows off how important location is to film. I feel like this podcast is a PSA of me talking about all the important things to make a horror film, but I feel like location is just super important, and they made this in such a way that was open area, but also felt secluded. And I thought that having the cat and mouse thing go from kind of the antagonist to the protagonist was a really nice twist on things. So really fun, underrated entry in the genre.
Definitely. We always like films. Like my brother, I mean, he has made it perfectly clear for his top 100 horror films. He doesn't necessarily like all of them, but he has them all for just how they're different, like why they're. And this was one of them, just because how you said, like, we feel like we're in secluded areas, like for instance, like the underwater for that giant like sea base, whereas this one, it is the wilderness, but you feel secluded because you feel trapped in it. It is nuts. Number 60.
Hold on, before we move on, shout out to Solid Nugs for 100 bits.
Hey,
First time chat viewer too.
Look at that. Thank you, Saw Nugs. We appreciate you and them 100 bits. Thank you very much. Keep tuning in. Send us more. We might need it. I don't know. We're still doing it. So, number 60, another recent addition. I love this film, but it kind of fell off the rug a little bit ever since it got, announced. But I've been waiting for this for a long, long time for this movie. Number 60 is 2021's The Black Phone. I really like this movie. Like I originally thought when Ethan Hawke was announced, I said, sign me up. Like I'm totally in on it. But before, I was like, oh, like that's kind of interesting. Like, he's got kidnapped and then his past victims are talking to him, like how to survive. And I kind of felt like that was cheating away maybe at like the horror experience for me. Cause like, it's like, you're cheating on a test, like you get context clues in that test and then everything. But the movie does very well at like realizing that these are kids and kids make mistakes even when they are given perfect directions. Mm-hmm. So using this with, and Ethan Hawke is just freaking, I love him in this movie. He's creepy. He's
very creepy.
I always, sometimes I'll just go up behind my girlfriend when she's not expecting, like, you want to see a magic trick? She's like, what the? I know, I'm weird. It happens. But yeah, your thoughts, Jace. What do you think of the movie?
Yeah, The Black Phone is I know it came out in 2021 in certain festivals, but I saw it in 2022. Second favorite horror film of the year so far. Really loved it. It was based obviously on Joe Hill's short story, which is Stephen King's son. Really, really big fan of it. I think that one of the things that makes me fall in love with it so much is the brother-sister relationship. They're both kind of abused children. They're kind of neglected and sort of abused without giving anything away. And I feel like having the brother and sister so connected makes it that much more important whenever the brother gets ripped away to be in Ethan Hawke's care. You kind of feel for the sister and you kind of hope they can get out together and reunite. So you're really pulling at the heartstrings for these young children to survive this horrible thing. And Ethan Hawke is among several, I think, nominees this year for what should be an Oscar. I think he deserves it. He was phenomenal.
Oh, definitely. I mean, man, horror just needs to be treated damn well better at like these kind of like movie events, but yeah. I understand. My brother points in that he says that what keeps you alive is in his top 20 horror movies of all time, and so is The Black Phone. So it's interesting. I knew that they were in his top 100. I forgot that they were in his top 20. So then again, he could have switched. I have switched mine around how many times, like a freaking jigsaw puzzle. That doesn't make any sense. I'm going to hit real quick on 5 of these, and then I want to spend the majority of the show kind of talking about 55 through what? We'll get there. But these ones are a little bit of, again, fast track. The only one I want to stop and talk about a little bit is 57. But 59, we have 2005's Saw 2. A very just grunge film that is just, I love the twists and turns. I mean, the Saw movies have always kept me on my toes. Mm-hmm. My brother will, and I will tell you at some point, maybe later, probably I believe that Saw is one of his favorite horror movies of all time. It's definitely in his top 10, maybe in his top 5. And then everything becomes torture porn after. But the first one is a phenomenal entry. Number 58, the original 2000's Final Destination. Yeah, you're glimpsing a little bit. Did I put it too low? Is it too low?
No, I honestly was more surprised that this was included because these movies are so formulaic. But this for me is a big guilty pleasure. I actually like all 6 of these. Like I know they're basic and simple, and you know what's going to happen, but they're so much fun to watch. I love it.
They keep you on your toes. You know what's going to happen, but it's just like when is it happening? Like.
And even in real life, you're driving, you're behind these trucks with like logs and stuff on. You're like, oh,
dude, I do it every time.
Like, what's gonna happen here?
I turn off the other side. I'm like, nope, I don't need it. I've seen this movie.
Yep.
But I'll still go on roller coasters, which makes absolutely no sense. This is the one I want to spend some time on. I don't know if this might be your number one, but I don't know from this year. This was a very big surprise for me. Now, I follow a lot of TikTok creators on horror content. So this was the cheat code that was essentially given to me because I would have never found this film had I not watched this video. 2022's Speak No Evil.
I have not seen that movie. I don't even know what that is.
So this is, I believe it's on Shudder. I think it's on hello. It's on Shudder. It's on Prime, I think.
Oh, it's on the Roku channel.
It's on the Roku channel. Man, wow. Have you ever seen Eden Lake? Okay, so you're gonna get even more upset for this one. So, the premise essentially is that a family befriends another family when they're visiting on vacation, so to speak. What they do in the foreign areas. They move back and they realize that they have invited them to spend the weekend with this particular family that they've only met once. But they're like food critics. They love talking to each other. And when they meet them, not all is what it appears to be. It keeps you on your toes, and the whole thing is downright brutal. If you haven't, I know you maybe don't have the stream up, but I know that the picture itself is chilling. So
I'm gonna put this one up on my Shudder list to watch now because for some reason I had not even heard of that one, so I'm surprised that I hadn't.
This is probably if I had to say, this is up there for Barbarian for me for the top horror films of this year. So I would gladly appreciate. I'm surprised I got one that you didn't know.
I don't think anything is going to top my number one for this year. I think it's an absolute masterpiece. I don't want to spend too much time if it's not on your list, but Pearl I thought was absolutely genius.
So I haven't seen Pearl yet, so I need to. I've seen X, but I haven't seen Pearl, so that is one that I have to get to. 56 again for these next couple. Good shit. This is a guilty pleasure. I've watched this. I had this on VHS and I ripped the thing out. I've seen it so many times. Everyone needs a good crossover. 56 for me is 2003's Freddy vs. Jason. I love this film. It's ridiculous. It's dumb. But man, the ending battle between these two is so worth it. It is the box office slugfest that we've wanted for how many years. And it's just, this is, I believe, was the first movie that I had seen, because I had not seen a Nightmare on Elm Street before this movie, and I had not seen a Friday the 13th movie before this. So I had no idea who these characters were. So I jumped right in and I said, who the hell is that guy? What is he? What is he? Why does he? Who's that guy? Why is he? And I fell in love with those franchises after I saw this movie.
So you went backwards. You're like, oh, I got to look at their backstory now.
I did. 55. I recently just watched it again last night. 2016's Don't Breathe. Yeah, this one definitely don't watch the sequel. Watch this one. Don't watch the sequel. The sequel is shit. The aspect that they took, which we'll talk about another movie that kind of relates to this later on, maybe next week. It takes away a sense, right? Sight. You have a blind person that people are breaking into his house and trying to steal money so they can go away. Well, he's not as easy to fool as you might think. And there's certain aspects in this, spoiler alert, where he turns off the light and you see up close, like without night vision or anything, like what these people like look like in the dark, and their eyes are all big. It is terrifying. And it's an excellent premise. So 55 on my list. We have 10 minutes left to get through 4. This is insane how this all played out. I think this
it worked out really well.
Yeah, I was like worried, like, oh, when we started like talking like 20 minutes and we only went through 5, I was like, ah, shit, we could be here for hours. And Jason, I again, when we get through all these, I gotta pick your brain for some of this stuff because this is incredible. I love talking to people that are into this, and I know if I'm not saying when, if you decide to come on next week with my brother and I with Vo and everything, this will be amazing to have. So. We have number 54, another 2016 film that I believe redefined the genre of zombies, and that is Train to Busan. I love this film. I love what it does. The concept of let's take a zombie apocalypse, but contain it into a goddamn train. Like, this is literally what that movie is. When everything else is like falling apart and around, obviously you have the chaos between characters. Character development in this movie I thought was very well done. From a guy that the one scene at the beginning, I was laughing so hard. I said, "Oh Jesus!" Like he like buys a present for this part, and it's like, "Oh, don't you like it?" And he like looks over, and it's the same thing he has on the counter. But hey, at least he bought. You know, he could have been worse. Could have bought him a PS3 when he asked for a PS5. So, you know,
that'd be pretty upsetting if that happened.
But Jason, your thoughts on Train to Busan? What do you think of it?
Yeah, see, subtitles are not all bad. See, there's sometimes where it's really good. Yeah, Train to Busan is it's a breakneck pace. I love seeing what happens when people change people and when you're going through stuff. Just kind of watching the de-evolution of people's like human psyche is very fascinating in real life as well as in movies. And Train to Busan is just one of those movies that just like from the second it comes on, you're kind of glued to the screen. Like it's one of those movies that I'll put on in the background and I'll stop what I'm doing to watch it, even though I've seen it before. Really, really good stuff.
Yeah, Bo, that's another one you got to check out. I don't
Did we? I feel like did we talk about this on another episode before?
We talked about it. Yeah, it was a zombie episode. I think.
Oh, okay.
But
it looked familiar.
Like, what one was that? We had talked a lot about my things on here. So, number 53. Don't you love if Groundhog Day was a horror film? Because I certainly do. This is 2017's Happy Death Day. Love this film. I saw this in theaters, and I thought this is gonna be a bullshit teen slasher, like crappy. Does it play the hearts and strings of all those people that thought that? Because they fooled me. This movie rocked. The aspect of such a dynamic of more comedy influence in this. It takes the comedy aspect that you would think in a Groundhog Day, where like, oh, this is happening here. Well, I can go lay naked in the middle of a field and not give a shit because I'm gonna wake up the next morning and it's gonna happen again. But add a freaking killer to it, and it's immediately one of the top concepts that I've seen in a long time. I know my brother really, really appreciates this film. I don't know.
He says top 15.
So top 15. So I did also see the sequel. Not as much of that heart pull that the first like cult classic gave me with this, but I digress. I really enjoy this film. Your take, Jason. What do you think?
Yeah, the Chris Landon universe is just pulling me in. Everything he's doing right now, I love. This guy is one of the masters of blending horror and comedy in a way that's funny but still has scary moments. I'm blanking on Tree's real name right now, but the Tree character, she's one of the best new Final Girls that I've seen in a long time. She's funny and sarcastic and witty and strong, and just the whole thing is great. The first one I love, the second one I like. Even Freaky I think is really good as well. Chris Landon is building, and he's putting Freaky Death Day together in a combined sequel fairly soon, and I cannot
wait for that to happen, dude. I'm so excited for that.
If you have not heard the whenever Vince Vaughn's character is laying in the in his lair or whatever, when it first becomes the girl, the bell rings, like the bell from Happy Death Day rings in Freaky. That's their little homage to
no shit, really.
Universe.
Wow, now it does kind of now I gotta go back and watch both of them. Holy hell. You are a plethora
Your brother said her name's Teresa.
Teresa, that's
Teresa.
right.
Freaky,
Yeah, for some
freaky
reason,
top
I
20.
I can't think of her real name, but she's been in a couple like musical things and stuff like that. She's incredibly talented, for sure.
Oh yeah. 52. We got 2 left. Again, I talked about the sequel, but I love this one a lot, and it should probably be higher, but I just couldn't put it any higher, unfortunately. And that is the original Creep from 2014. The premise, a guy answers an online ad, which don't do that. You're not gonna like what you find, people. That is how my girlfriend got her dog, though, which is hilarious. So, but I digress. He answers an ad to go film this guy for essentially, a good amount of money. And from the moment that he said, "It's time to go take a tubby," I was like, "What the hell is what is that?" And yeah, the movie itself, it dives into a lot of like the quirkiness and weirdness of like social anxiety and just how craziness can bring about you in a way that makes for the final scene in this movie is one that I honestly thought it was like, are we in the credits? Like what is this? And when it happened, I was like, how did I was like, what? Somebody, what? And I was like, I loved it. So for me, again, I've only seen him in one other role, and it was a comedy. So I've never seen him play out in a horror film, especially when he was the said horror person. So I appreciate the first Creep. Again, we talk about found footage. Is it dead or is it not? This is one of the ones where it really did work.
Yeah, the Duplass brothers do centralize in comedy, which is crazy because Mark Duplass does such a chilling, unsettling character here, where I'm watching this like almost like mentally psychopathic, but also mentally challenged character done in such a serious way that I found myself sitting on my couch going like this. I'm watching the movie as it's playing out, just kind of like cringed up because I know things are about to happen, and it uses the camera so well, and I could watch a million of these. I know there's a little setup at the end of the second one for possible future sequels. I think Mark Duplass has written one already, so we're going to get one more at least. I think it's going to be the last part of the trilogy, but I would like about 100 more because these are so fun to watch.
Oh, exactly. And finally, we get to our number 51. I recently rewatched this, and I thought it should have been put higher when I rewatched it. But sometimes I didn't want to like step on too many toes. This is by far probably the longest film in terms of runtime, which, my brother, he skips when he, like, let's take the Titanic, for instance. He skips all the way to when the ship hits the iceberg. Like, doesn't, like, he's like, why do I need to know anymore? Yeah. That's what it is. So don't ask him anything before that. He probably won't know. But this is a 3-hour-long movie, and I love it. I love all the aspects. He already knows.
You know what he's saying.
This is 2016's The Wailing. This movie, like, it throws you through so many loops. It has the appropriate scares, and just almost the feel of it is just eerie. It's dark. It's like, what are we gonna get next? Like, it is one of honestly the most terrifying Oriental films that I've seen in so long. Obviously, you have films like The Grudge, but I think that this, honestly, for me, it was like past The Grudge in terms of like creepiness and weird and just overall just uneasy feeling. So, I mean, this is my number 51. So, Jason, what do you have to say about it?
Yeah, I mean, I would put this up there with like Ju-on, the Foreign Grudge, and obviously what's with Audition from '99 as well. This is like top foreign films for me. The runtime did throw me off. I'm one of those people that like once it goes past like 2 hours and 20 minutes, I start getting a little restless.
Yeah.
So I watched this in 2 sittings. I watched it in as hour-and-a-half sittings, which I also do with Stephen King's TV series that run long. But I really enjoyed this. Splitting it up definitely helped keep my attention. But again, the atmosphere is one of the biggest things here. I love the location. I love the way certain things are strung out. Every time that the pacing feels like it's going slow, it's doing it for a deliberate reason. And whenever you have slow pacing and slow burns done right, they're rare, but they're really good. Another one of my kind of, in my personal top 10 to top 12 horror films that's considered a really slow burn is The Babadook, and it kind of reminds me of that imagery wise in some ways.
Well, maybe perhaps we will talk about the Babadook later on. But no, I do appreciate it. Jason, for right now, I don't know if you're going to be on the next episode or not, depending on you. So right now, that is my spiel from 100 to 51. I am going to let you now plug whatever you may want to plug, good sir. So before you do that, I just want to say thank you. You've been a wonderful guest. A box full of knowledge that I feel like
I told you
that I didn't believe.
He knows his stuff. I wasn't making that up.
No, I mean, he's outside all day. I don't know what you do, because if you're friends with him, I don't know what the hell. But yeah, you are a Pandora's box of horror mystery, my friend, and I love you for that. So I will be gracious if you decide to join us next week. But for now, I will shut my mouth finally, and I will let you plug, good sir.
Yeah, listen, guys, as long as our schedules converge, I am always down to come on and open the box for you guys a little more. That's a whole different podcast. I apologize. But no, the box is always open for fellow horror fans, and I've got a lot going on. So I just wrote, directed, and produced a film for the 48-hour film competition. It's called A Mother's Dying Wish. It is a psychological supernatural short film, and it's playing this weekend along with 10 other films in my block and 20 other films in 2 other blocks. So if you guys are in the Pittsburgh area this weekend, it is at the Toll Family Theater in Swickley. My group plays at 12:15. We're hopefully going to be up for a lot of awards, so please come check out my work. If you like my blatherings on this podcast, you might like what I have to say in film. So come check that out as well if you're in the Pittsburgh area this Sunday at 12:15. My YouTube channel, where I post some films of mine and trailers of mine, as well as a bunch of movie reviews from films we've talked about today and beyond. That is Styles Clash for Life, STYLESCLASH 4 Life. That is my YouTube channel. I do Steeler reviews, I do film reviews, all kind of fun stuff like that. If you guys want to follow me on Facebook or Twitter, that's Jason Burke, JASONBURKE. Twitter is at JBurke, JAYBURKE. I do a self-help blog. I'm writing for pophorror.com. That's one word, Pop Horror. I do a lot of convention reviews, interviews. I've been working a lot with the people at Shudder and stuff like that to review a lot of their documentaries. I just did something with Thomas Hamilton, who did the Boris Karloff documentary on Shudder. So go check those out. There are some pretty cool features there. And I've got 6 books out right now. My Etsy page, which I can post somewhere, one of these links. I don't have the link offhand, but I have 6 books available. 2 are poetry compilations, 3 are horror murder mysteries, and 1 is a photography storybook with a 7th book coming out fairly soon. So
Wow.
plenty of stuff around the pike.
So you are a busy guy.
Little bit, yeah. I don't sleep very much.
much.
I don't sleep very much, but it's all worth it. It's all for the arts. And again, the reason why I talk so glowingly about this stuff is because I love it and I've grown up loving it. And I'm just so lucky to be able to do the stuff that I love. That's the American dream, and I'm very blessed for it. So thank you guys for the platform. I appreciate it.
That was probably, I mean,
You weren't ready for that, were you?
That was the greatest plug in I think we've had on this show. And we've done 101 episodes.
Yeah.
So, I mean, that's fucking awesome. Wow, I will have to check out all of this stuff from you, Jason, because I am that much more intrigued when I say that you are by far probably one of our more interesting and mysterious guests that I have ever seen. And mysterious isn't a good term. I want to make that clear, because when you say you're doing all this stuff, it's like, I mean, right in my head, I'm like, how the hell do you have time? that's in my opinion, but you just say you don't sleep much. So
honestly, yeah, the next horror film is going to be how my body functions after this 48 thing is over, man, because it's been crazy. I was up for 69 of 72 hours creating this short film, and
Wow.
we very often do this. I actually, just another plug, I co-wrote a feature film called Calf. It is a dark feature family cult film. It's very spiritual, very dark, very A24 style, which is a heavy influence from the director Jess Kessler, who's a wonderful young director. And I just co-wrote this script with her and with 2 other writers, and I just acted in it a couple weeks ago. My acting part is done now, but the movie is finalizing its principal photography and should be hopefully coming out by next summer. Trailers will be available soon. There is a current sneak preview available on my Facebook, if you go there and check it out too. So yeah, doing a lot of stuff. I'm not sleeping very much. I just did the 24-hour writing competition where they gave us 24 hours to write a short story. I'll be getting the results for that soon as well. So
I feel like if you're not sleeping, that might help you with writing, though, because you're not completely there. So
You
brain's
know what?
going.
Stephen King and a lot of the famous poets always said that being drugged and being like hallucinatory kind of helped your writing. I don't really do any of that hardcore stuff, but not sleeping does give you very much lucid opportunities to create weird shit. So I guess I'm a big weird creator, and I appreciate being mysterious. So thank you. I tip my hat to you, sir.
Yeah, I mean, like, if you see Kruger anywhere, I start looking out because when you start not sleeping, that shit kind of comes back to haunt you. Wow, I don't even know how to follow that up. Ladies and gentlemen, you can check out on everything that Jason has said because I know I would probably give myself an freaking lobotomy trying to remember all that. That is insane. But we'll have everything. I'm sure if Vo doesn't plug everything, I'm sure when you share this, you'll definitely put all your plugs in and everything. Go follow this guy. He knows what he's talking about, whether it's movies, script, writing, anything. Like, this guy knows what he's talking about. This has been incredible. You have no idea how happy I am inside right now. I've had a really
He really is. I can tell.
I've had a really shit day, and this had perked me up so much. So, Jason, I thank you for that. And I thank you to everyone who has tuned in for this episode. And we're not done yet. Tune in next week when Jason makes his return, perhaps. Along with my brother. And we discuss my top horror films from 50 to 1. There's nothing else, guys. Which I don't think there is. Stop me if there's not, though. I think that might be it, though.
I would just like to say, I reach out to Jason, so you're welcome.
You want a gold star? You want a gold star? I'll put it on the fridge, Ringo. Come on. No.
Yeah, thanks again for joining us, Jason.
Honestly,
we really appreciate it.
You are phenomenal, my guy.
The pleasure is mine, guys. Thank you very much.
Yeah. So, again, you'll be able to follow his content when we put it out. And until then, this has been the RankKing's Court. You can catch us always at 6:30 on Tuesdays. Do you have the gavel, good sir?
I have it, but it's impossible to do all of this at the same time.
This is where Greg always comes in handy. But thank you again to everyone who viewed, all our commenters, all our people, and especially to Jason again for guesting in this episode. You can catch him perhaps next week. We'll leave it on a cliffhanger, so to speak. Until then, this has been the RankKing's Court. I am the Rank King, Austin Moorhead, saying court is adjourned.
Messed it up.
Court is adjourned.